I'm giving you guys the top 10 best class setups in Modern Warfare 3 right now. Everything that you're going to need, and it's going to be the easiest way to use them. So we're going to start out with the Striker, put on the Colossus Suppressor for being undetectable by the radar, and recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed, which won't even matter because we're going to fix that later on. Throw on the Striker Recon Longbow for bullet velocity and range, and aiming out of sway at the cost of hip fire attack stance spread, sprint to fire speed, and aim walking speed. Trust me, you're not going to notice this because we're going to fix it later on. Put on the .45 auto high grain rounds for no enemy skulls, bullet velocity and damage range at the cost of some recoil control, which we already took care of with the previous attachments. This is essential for SMGs. It makes them so much better. In fact, I don't really recommend any of these other ones. They're just not really worth it. This is just the king of all ammunition types. 60 round drum, just because you can actually max out the amount of bullets you can have in this gun and still do a phenomenal job mobility wise, aim down sight, all that, just because of the attachments we have on this gun. Last thing to make this thing perfect is the no stock. It helps with aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, aim walking speed, and hip fire and attack stance spread at the cost of gun kick control, aiming, idle sway, flinch resistance, and recoil control. Now you may think this is a big deal, but trust me, because of all the attachments on this gun, this makes this perfect. So this is the best attachment for the Striker. All these attachments are absolutely amazing, and you need to have every single one to actually balance each other and have the optimal SMG. Next, for my snipers out there, I want to show off the Longbow because this thing is absolutely elite, and if you don't have this class right here, you're most likely getting hit markers. Start out with the FSS OV laser for aiming stability, aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed at the cost of laser being visible at ADS, which is not a big deal, believe me. This is a big one right here, the 7.62 high grain rounds for bullet velocity and damage range. Trust me, you want this on there. I know it says a reduction of recoil control, but you're not going to notice it because the Longbow has 0 recoil. 10 round mag for aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, aim walking speed, and reload quickness. Now, if you just want to have the base amount of 30 round mags, I mean, you can, but this does help significantly with the aim down sight speed. I would just recommend having an alternative if you just want to keep the 30. Put on the Knot Z3 grip for sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed at the cost of some gun kick control and recoil control, which you're not going to notice because, once again, this thing has 0 recoil. The last thing to make this thing perfect is no stock. It helps with sprint to fire speed, movement speed, aim walking speed, and aiming out of sway at the cost of gun kick control, recoil control, aiming out of sway, and flinch resistance. Now, the only thing you would have to potentially worry about is flinch resistance, so just don't be hard scoping and expecting if you get shot not to have any flinch, because you're most likely going to have some flinch. But aside from that, this thing has no recoil. This thing is absolutely insane, and in my opinion, it is the best sniper in the game right now. Next, we're moving on to the Rival 9. This is honestly, in my opinion, the best SMG competitive wise, and I think you'll absolutely love using it. Put on the L4R flash hider for muzzle flash concealment, recoil control, and gun kick control at the cost of aim down sight speed, which honestly won't even matter with everything else we're going to put on there. Throw on the 9mm high grain rounds for bullet velocity and damage range at the cost of some recoil control, which you won't notice, but this is the key to making this the best SMG in the game. It already has an incredibly fast fire rate, but the bullet velocity and damage range buff just makes this top tier. 40 round mag, now this is just for public match. If you're playing competitive, you most likely not use any sort of mag, and you would just use something to help the sprint to fire speed or the recoil control. Rival Vice Assault grip for gun kick control, firing aim stability, and recoil control at the cost of aiming out of sway. And last but not least, MTZ Marauder stock for gun kick control, aiming out of sway, and firing aim stability at the cost of aim walking speed, movement speed, hip fire, and attack stance spread, and sprint to fire speed. There is no alternative that I would recommend more because this is just the best one overall. If you didn't want to have a 30 round mag and you just want to take the competitive route, then go ahead and use the Broom Pivot vertical grip for gun kick control, vertical recoil, aiming out of sway, and firing aim stability. This will make this an absolute laser, more laser than it already is. But if you're competitive and I know you want to have the best advantage possible, this will give you the best advantage possible. So this is the best SMG in the game. Please use this. In my opinion, you'll absolutely slay, shred, no matter what map, no matter what mode. It's just optimal. Next, we're on to the MCW, the most popular assault rifle in the game. Start out with the 16.5 MCW Cyclone long barrel for bullet velocity and range, aiming out of sway, and firing aim stability at the cost of attack stance spread, which who cares, aim hip fire spread, who cares, aim walking speed. This is going to be taken care of, but this is honestly one of the biggest things to make this thing amazing. Put on the 5.56 NATO high grain rounds for bullet velocity and damage range at the cost of recoil control. Trust me, you're not going to notice a reduction of recoil control. 60 round drum, just because it's the optimal amount of bullets. You don't want to have 40 because, I mean, between 60 and 40, it's just about the same. RB Claw PSL grip for firing aim stability, gun kick control, recoil control at the cost of aiming out of sway, which you won't even notice. And last but not least, I have the Mark III reflector. It's personal preference. If you don't want this, you don't want any sight, then you can just use something like the underbarrel or literally anything else. It doesn't really matter, but you can use any optic if you want to choose an optic. The DG58 is, in my opinion, the best assault rifle in the game. Now, some people disagree with that. I think it's insane. Despite the nerf that they're trying to put on it, it's still one shot. So, I mean, keep using it. Put on the Komodo Heavy for horizontal and vertical recoil control at the cost of aim down, sight speed, and aiming out of sway. Put on the DG56 LS18 barrel for bullet velocity and range, aiming out of sway, gun kick control, and recoil control at the cost of hip fire and tack stand spread, movement speed, aim walking speed, sprint to fire speed. Put on a 40 round mag. In my opinion, 60 is pretty cool, but you just don't need it. I think 40 is more optimal. This actually will hurt you more than the 40. It's not like the MCW. The 40 is the best possible choice. Extended TP9 butt plate for tack stand spread, recoil control, hip fire and tack stand spread, and gun kick control. Now, I know some people like using the Soldier Pro. I mean, it's completely up to you, or the recoil reduction butt plate, but I think the extended TP9 butt plate is just the best possible choice for recoil control. You do get a reduction of aim down, sight speed, firing, aim stability, and aiming out of sway, but I think it's worth it. Last thing is, once again, personal preference. I use the Mark III reflector, but you can use whatever you want to. Next, we're moving on to a classic, which is the Lachmann Sub. In my opinion, this is an amazing Modern Warfare 2 gun in Modern Warfare 3, so this is a class that I think will have you popping off. Started with the XRK Edge BW4 hand stop for aim walking speed, movement speed, aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed at the cost of aim walking steadiness, hip fire, and tack stand spread. 9mm high grain rounds. Believe me, this is a big deal for this gun. It was already pretty powerful, but this makes it even stronger with the bullet velocity and damage range at the cost of recoil control. Put on the 40 round mag. In my opinion, you don't need 50 because it's actually going to hurt it way more than just the 40. Kimura RYL33 laser light for aim, walking steadiness, aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, and tack stance spread. This thing is so useful. In fact, in my opinion, it's actually the best laser. Some people want to use the VLK laser 7 MW. If you want to keep using that like you did in MW2, then you can. I mean, in my opinion, they're both amazing. They both really get the job done. But if you don't want any sort of reduction to, say, recoil control like it says on here, then you can have the VLK laser 7 MW and still do an amazing job. And last but not least, FT mobile stock for aiming out of sway and aim down sight speed at the cost of hip fire, tack stand spread, recoil control, sprint speed, and gun kick control. But you're not going to notice it. This thing is going to be an absolute laser that hits extremely hard. So make sure you guys have this class. It's absolutely amazing what the Lachmann Sub can do in this game. And in my opinion, it actually really is one of the best MW2 guns in MW3. The TAC 56 is just, it's Renetti. It's amazing. It really does get the job done. And in my opinion, it's the best assault rifle MW2 gun in MW3. Started with the RF Crown 50 for recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and aiming out of sway. Put on the 17.5 Tundra Pro barrel for bullet velocity and range and hip fire accuracy at the cost of hip recoil control, aim down sight speed, and hip fire and tack stance spread, which honestly, who cares? Put on the 5.56 high velocity, unless you want to put on the NATO high grain rounds. Whichever one you want to use is completely your choice, personal preference. Both of them are going to get the job done. I think more people are actually going to lean towards the NATO high grain round. So in fact, throw this on for bullet velocity and damage range at the cost of recoil control. Throw on a 40 round mag. You don't need 60. It's just going to hurt it way more than 40. So make sure you have this on and not this. Last thing I have is the TV Cardinal stock for aim, walking speed, and sprint speed at the cost of aiming out of sway. And in my opinion, this is the best TAC 56 class. You will absolutely have a good time using this. And in my opinion, this is the absolute best TAC 56 class. You will have a good time using this. It's very easy to use and extremely powerful. The WSP Swarm is the fastest killing SMG close range, so you need to have this on there, especially if you're facing tryhards and want to get the job done very quickly. Throw on the WSP Reckless 90 Longbow for bullet velocity and range, aiming out of sway, gun kick control, recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed, hip fire and tack stance spread, aim walking speed, and sprint to fire speed. Throw on the Bruin Pivot Vertical Grip for gun kick control, vertical recoil, aiming out of sway, firing aim stability at the cost of horizontal recoil, aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed. Make sure you have the 9mm high grain rounds for bullet velocity and damage range at the cost of recoil control, which you will not notice because of everything that we have on there. 50 round mag. I mean, if you're playing more competitive, maybe 40. I don't really recommend 25 or 20 just because it's not going to help. Honestly, just stick to your base if you want to have something lower, but 40 or 50 would be a good choice without being too detrimental. Do not use 100. You're just going to have a terrible time. The last thing I have on there is the FSS Fortress heavy stock for gun kick control, recoil control, firing, aim stability, and tack stance spread at the cost of aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, sprint speed, and movement speed. This makes this build the absolute strongest close range SMG you can possibly use, and in my opinion, it's absolutely deadly. Now for the strongest fully automatic assault rifle, the Holger 5.56 is absolutely insane, and you should be using this. They're on the Silent Fire XG6 for undetectable by radar, firing, aim stability, bullet velocity, and recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming out of sway, damage range, and aim walking speed. Now you're probably thinking, why would I want something that reduces damage range? Trust me, we're going to take care of that. This thing is already insane. Throw on the 5.56 NATO high grain rounds for bullet velocity and damage range at the cost of some recoil control, which this thing doesn't have. Throw on the 40 round mag. I mean, there's really no alternative. If this had 60, I might throw on 60, but it just doesn't. So don't throw on 20. It's not worth it. Throw on the RB Adult assault stock for recoil control, control and gun kick control at the cost of aim down sight speed. And the last one's personal preference. If you want to use anything else, feel free, but I think that the Mark III reflector is just very optimal for this gun. And this is the best fully automatic assault rifle in the game. I think it's stronger than MCW. It's definitely debatable. I think a lot of people like the MCW more because it's popular, but I think this is the best assault rifle fully automatic. Now, the last gun I want to show you guys is the Renetti, and this is going to be the absolute leveled up aftermarket version. So it's basically the MP7. They're on the FT Steel Fire for undetectable by radar, bullet velocity, range damage, fall off, and firing aim stability at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming out sway, and aim walking speed. Trust me, this is what you want on there. They're on the VX Pineapple for aim, walking, steadiness, hip fire, attack, stance, spread, and gun kick control and recoil control at the cost of movement speed, hip recoil control, and aim down sight speed. 50 round drum, in my opinion, this is the best possible choice. If you want to use 30, feel free, you'll have more mobility, but I think 50 is the optimal choice because 30, this thing does shoot very fast, and you could actually wipe out the full team multiple times with the 50 round drum. FJX DIOD 70 for aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. The cost of the laser being visible in ADS, definitely worth it for all the pros you get, and this is the best possible choice to have for the Renetti. Now, if you just have this without the conversion kit, then I mean, you take this off and you can throw on, say, like the high grain rounds, or you can throw on, say, like the Mark II Renetti long barrel, or the extended, whichever one you really want to use. Overall, this is the optimal build. Oh, but if you do have just the pistol version, the regular pistol version, don't use 50. Use 30 or 24. Don't use 50. It's just going to be sluggish and not worth it.